Hello and welcome back to Hellraisers vs. CCK in the Battle of Central Europe Season 3. Still, we are without the ticket for the Season 3 Battle of Central Europe, so if you did purchase the Season 2 ticket, these games are going to be cast on the previous one, and so you can still watch these in-game if you were one of the people to watch Season 2, and unfortunately, the Season 3 ticket still hasn't come, and we don't have that Meepo set in just yet, so, please bear with us as through the early portions of the group stage, hopefully Valve is going to get that in. It was Hellraisers to take a very convincing win over CCK in the first game of the tournament for today. I don't know, just seeming that Hellraisers outclassed CCK pretty much. There wasn't much else to say there. Like, all of their lanes went well, except for the mid lane, and even the mid lane. Templar Assassin, despite CSing poorly or not really poorly, but as expected, up against a dual lane, not doing as well as the enemy Slark, still was able to catch up inside the jungle. The team made some nice rotations, and after one kill, that lead in the mid lane, it was all but over. Slark dies once, and that was pretty much it. Hellraisers just couldn't find any, Hellraisers couldn't lose, really. CCK couldn't find any opening to get anything done with their heroes, and I think a lot of that starts out with the draft. And, well, this game, they're going to start out with the Ogre Magi. It worked for Hellraisers in game number 1, so maybe it'll work out for CCK, but I think that CCK, they need to buckle down their plan for the early game, especially because last game there just wasn't any ability for them to find their footing and transition. They needed to get Blink Daggers on their Puck and Slark, but by the end of the game, they did have one on their Puck, but it just wasn't enough in order to find those initiations to get the kills, since Hellraisers, they just were too tanky, and they did too much damage in return, and more importantly, they had so much control. Hellraisers, even if they were losing those fights, they had Midas to fall back on 3 of their cores, and it was a pretty brutal showing coming out from them. For game number 2, Hellraisers is going to start things off with an Elder Titan, although fairly damage light in and of himself, unless you get that Earth Splitter to connect, which is incredibly hard unless you have, like, a Faceless Void to set up. He's buffing up everybody else on his team, especially the Skywrath Mage. Ancient Seal combined with Natural Order is a pretty ridiculous combination for magical damage, making sure that those nukes hit like a truck. So it's the enemy team that needs to be careful. Even Ogre Magi, a fairly tanky hero, as far as supports are concerned, is gonna melt. And that's not to mention the magical or physical damage that might come out from Hellraisers as well. CCK? I respect this choice to go for the Tidehunter in their second pick. I think these two heroes are just all around more stable than what they got in game number 1. Witch Doctor and Puck, I don't think were the problems in their draft, but even though these two are melee heroes, they're fairly strong laners in and of themselves. They're usually able to get something out of the early game, accomplish anything, or accomplish something, I should say. Tidehunter, even if he's not able to get something out of the lane, which usually is because he's such a tanky beast, but if he doesn't get as much as he'd like to, he can always back off for the Ancients or into the jungle if he really needs to. And Ogre Magi, he can play passively, zone out pretty effectively just with his great base stats, as well as with a Night Slow to do some harass, especially to an offlane Elder Titan. Those two can trade hits, and Ogre Magi generally comes out on top unless we have Astral Spirit giving that ET an extra boost of damage. As far as the Ogre Magi is concerned, I think that pretty much sums it up. But for now, Hellraisers, they're the ones to decide the next couple of bans and the pace of this draft up until now. Both teams have decent heroes, and right now, Hellraisers kind of have an undertone of magic resist removal, but they could also go for some sort of minus armor as well. Later on in the draft, it's definitely something that they could consider. Dazzle might be on the table, but I'm not sure that that's going to be their decision.
10 seconds to go.
Yeah, Dazzle might be nice, but with the Skywrath Mage, you can do pretty much anything. This support is pretty much, never really bad. He's not a jack of all trades, but he has a goal, and it's really hard to stop Skywrath Mage from doing his damage and doing his job. Silencing a target, and then dropping his nukes. And whether he dies or not inside the teamfight generally is irrelevant if he's already dumped his mana pool into somebody, with those Arcane Bolts, as well as a Concussive Shot and his ultimate if he does find a good opening. Faceless Void would be decent for Hellraisers, so they wanted to pick it up, and although Hellraisers ban out the Vengeful Spirit, that would have been a decent choice for them as well. Minus armor from Wave of Terror, as well as the plus damage, synergizes just so well with what they have, and would be a nice package together. Right now, neither team has really tipped their hand into what they really want to do. Hellraisers have some flexibility when it comes to lanes, Elder Titan mid or off lane, maybe even a support if Hellraisers are up to the task, and Skywrath Mage, support or mid, can both work very effectively. And so, if the draft requires, Hellraisers can switch things around, but then again, so can CCK. Right now, the draft doesn't really tell much about the team's plan in the game. But for now, we're going to see Puck banned out by CCK. Puck, I'm not sure if he's the scariest hero left in the pool, but he's generally a very solid one either way. And Ravage as well as Fire Blast are fairly easy to elude as Puck with some phase shifts or some jaunts. Hellraiser's just gonna ban out Slark. I don't think he played exceptionally well in the first game, but he did the best out of the rest of his teammates, and also maybe just something that CCK are comfortable with, which is probably why they picked the Slark in the first place. So I can understand this ban for Hellraisers. It's going to be a Legion Commander, and right now they have a lot of tools to make sure that Legion Commander wins those duels. As long as Elder Titan doesn't stomp onto him, dropping it, or a splitter on top of the dueling targets is incredibly easy to get that extra damage off. Just the natural order as well makes the Legion Commander hit like a truck, especially if there's already a couple of damage stacks up on her. Skywrath Mage, dropping a Mystic Flare into the duel is like hitting fish in a barrel and is incredibly easy to ensure some easy damage for your Legion Commander. So it's a pretty good start from them. Ooh. Hellraisers, Legion Commander isn't the most stable of heroes, but it definitely could get off to a snowbally start for CCK. Right now, it's going to be CCK's turn to tip the scales. If they want to go for a support, right now the range supports are not looking too great, as Vengeful Spirit and Skywrath Mage are probably some of your top tier ones that are available. Rubik might be a good choice for them. Also, denying it away from Hellraisers might be solid. Just giving them an instant lockdown spell in that lift and being able to seal the likes of, I don't know, the silence coming up for Skywrath Mage, most importantly, is pretty good. There's not anything super great from Hellraisers that they can snag, but it still wouldn't be bad, but still to go for the Lich. Again, we're going to see this hero in action. The extra armor is going to be very useful up against the Elder Titan, and honestly, I'm not sure why I wasn't thinking about this hero in the first place. I mean, nice babysitting support for them, despite not benefiting very much from Ogreja's ability to roam. Froth Blast as well as Fire Blast can do quite a chunk of damage, even in the early stages of the game, can put some pressure onto the Elder Titan, zone him out pretty effectively, and just constantly keep the lane under control with those denies coming out from Lich's sacrifice.
10 seconds to go.
I think CCK are warranted in picking up this Lich. I quite like the choice from them. And already, I kind of like their lineup a little bit better than what we saw last game as far as how it combats up against the enemy team, but they still have yet to show their hand in their mid and safe lane heroes, which are going to be crucial for them right now. Timbersaw is looking pretty decent up against Elder Titan, Legion Commander, and Skywrath, either strength heroes or just generally very squishy in the Skywrath Mage, so maybe that's a choice again if they want to go for it. And this game, they have some decent tools to lock down Timber, but not as much as they had last game. The silence from Skywrath Mage is still going to be a pain, and the duel is there from Legion Commander, but Hellraisers, they're going to buckle down hard and go for the Medusa. Elder Titan Medusa is a pretty decent combination in and of itself. The damage coming out from these heroes is going to be pretty absurd. Hellraisers, they need some sort of control out of their last pick, but right now this is just incredibly scary. CCK, I think they could get away with an anti-mage, however, here, and it's not banned out. Even if Hellraisers decide to go aggressive, their aggressive tri-link potential is very limited, and instead they're going to go for an Invoker. I don't know, he's a nice choice. I think this game, more than most, you're going to probably see a Wexa Invoker coming out from this game. Is that mana burn up against the Medusa would be really nice. Burning 400 mana as well as doing 400 damage to Medusa is pretty much a double-edged sword. You're taking away Medusa's survivability through that mana shield, which is incredibly useful, especially at the early portions of the game. It's kind of a different approach than going for the anti-mage, but I still wouldn't be opposed to seeing an AM. I think it would be solid, especially when you're dealing with really high mana heroes, and Hellraisers, they're going to ban it out. I think this is kind of a missed opportunity for CCK, where they could have picked up that really hard-hitting carry, and no matter what that last pick for Hellraisers would have been, I'm not sure they would have been able to control up an AM enough in order to really make things work. Skywrath Mage, although can do decently inside a tri-lane scenario, dropping that damage coming up from the Arcane Bolt, Legion Commander, Elder Titan, and Medusa generally don't want to be in aggressive tri-lanes. Medusa can work, I suppose, with her Mystic Snake, but she'd much rather be in a safe lane farming situation. Yeah. I don't know, I don't like this choice to shy away from the anti-mage here, as they probably could have gotten away with picking up the Invoker last. But they're still going to have a source of that mana burn. As far as the last hero, they still are missing that safe lane carry, and honestly, up against Hellraiser's lineup, going late against them is a really tall order and probably shouldn't be attempted coming out from CCK. So some sort of mid-game carry would be really nice for him. Somebody who's going to utilize that safe lane farm effectively fairly early on. The Slark might have been pretty decent for them, to be honest, and maybe that's why Hellraisers took it out of the pool.
10 seconds to go.
Although it's not entirely towards the early game, maybe going for the likes of a Gyrocopter would be pretty nice for them, offering a lot of teamfight AoE between the Wex Invoker, Tidehunter, Ravage, as well as that call down, and not to mention the right clicks with Flat Cannon coming out from the Gyro. They'd also be able to probably get kills on the ET, with the Lich and Ogre Magi to CC him down, slowing him, as well as just making sure he stays in place. There's plenty of ways for a Gyrocopter to chase after him with that Rocket Barrage, which does an obscene amount of damage at the early portions of the game. Even Elder Titan, a fairly strong hero at the early portions as far as HP is concerned, would fall very fast to that combination. Hellraisers are going to be the first ones to show their cards. It is not going to come out just yet, but a mere 20 seconds before we actually see their choice. As far as supports to combo up with the Skywrath Mage left in the pool, we're fairly limited. Maybe it's just a support Elder Titan and I'm completely missing something. They're going to go for a Zeus. Wow. The damage coming up for them is going to be, quite frankly, ridiculous. Both physical and magical, but they are lacking a decent amount of control, and CCK, I think this lineup for them is definitely favoring them a lot better, and Hellraisers might be experimenting a little bit with this choice of heroes. But then again, theirs can get out of control. For CCK, it's going to be a PA. This is a kind of nice middle ground hero. I don't know, it can scale really well late, does a lot of physical damage early on, but is it really the direction they want to go? It's going to force Medusa and maybe even Leech Commander into going to Monkey King bars, but still, the magical damage coming up from Hellraisers is going to be almost unsurmountable at the early portions for Phantom Assassin. There's a window once the BKB comes up and before the MKB comes up for the Medusa. The Phantom Assassin's going to have to really drive it home. And if she's not dominating during that phase, you really need something else, because a lot of their tools are going to be in this Phantom Assassin. The Bloodlusted Phantom Assassin is definitely not something to underestimate. And CCK, I think that they definitely have a better chance this game. To introduce them into this and on their heroes that they're playing, we're going to have towards the offlane, Flowex playing on the Tidehunter, and mid, K3K on the Invoker, Suki on the Lich, Baguette, or Tib on the Phantom Assassin, and Villic playing on the Ogre Magi. On the Dire side, we're going to have Artis making a appearance on his Medusa in mid. Looks like we're going to have Gorik on the Leech Commander. Potentially it's going to be a Zeus. No, that's a mid Zeus played by Afro-Ninja. Looks like we're going to have an offlane Leech Commander played by Gorik. And our supporting cast is going to be Dread on the Elder Titan and Goddamn on the Skywrath Mage. Elder Titan support is something that I'm still pretty iffy about. Getting those boots first and being able to run down the enemy offlane is pretty nice, although I'm not sure if it's going to work well enough here. A very greedy support, but in the current state of the meta, and if Hellraisers are able to accomplish this, taking the game to the later portions, means that you're still going to have everything that makes Elder Titan awesome, which, in all honesty, is just that aura. As for CCK, they're going to start out with a dual lane setup, sending Tidehunter as well as Lich towards that offlane. It's going to be nice to stop Medusa from farming a little bit, but I'm not sure if it's necessary. I think I actually like it. I'm not sure how much the Lich would be accomplishing down towards bottom. Offlane Leech Commander doesn't really do much on her own. I think Ogre is going to be well enough equipped to zone her out, at least as far as you can zone out an Offlane Legion. A very fast hero, as well as being able to spam out those overwhelming odds for CS. Legion should be able to get a decent amount. Still, we're going to probably be keeping our eyes on this mid lane matchup. For the most part, it is probably going to be a Wex Invoker with the loadout, starting out with the Gloves of Attack, or the Blades of Attack, excuse me, as well as with Quas to start things up against the Zeus. This should be a fairly easy time for K3K, although not for the first wave or so, until he picks up those phase boots. He might have a little bit of difficulty, but I think this is kind of the X factor. Up top, Medusa in her lane should win, even though there's a Lich on the enemy side. It's going to be annoying, but nothing unsurmountable in bottom, although Phantom Assassin Ogre should have a decent time. Leech Commander should get a decent amount as well. Villic going to be wrapping around on Gorik. They start things off with Stifling Dagger as well as Ignite, but can't attack her any further. She is going to get last hit with that overwhelming odds. Now trading with Villic very aggressively. Both of them dropping fairly low, and he's going to bail out of this first. It is going to be... both of them getting out at about the same time. It is going to be Ogre eating through the regen coming out from the Leech Commander, but Leech Commander has a lot more regen as well as that Stout Shield, relying on it to make sure that she's in a good situation. Goric only has one Tango. Now they're going to start things up again with Stifling Dagger into Goric, still getting good experience trading with Villic. He does not want to have anything to do with this. Can't chase him down, unfortunately, because of that Orb of Venom, but Ogre Magi generally can trade. Not when you're at a Stout Shield disadvantage with the hero that has some decent armor as well. I believe it's only 2 on the Leech Commander, but that's definitely serviceable. Even though you are dealing with quite possibly one of the highest armor, if not the highest armor hero right now in the Ogre Magi. I think Techies has more, but that's about it. Or at least it comes to my mind immediately. Suki going to be securing the rune up in top, as the rune in bottom is currently not being spotted by anybody else. Suki is also making his way towards mid to get off a sacrifice there. I don't know. This Lich, what's he actually doing? It looks like he's waiting for an Ancient stack, but yeah, that's going to be for the Tidehunter. Excuse me, it is just going to be the Lich, making good use of his time. He is sitting on sacrifice that hasn't been used for a while, but it's still going to be a nice use of his time. Ogre Magi, very low on HP as well as mana. It's going to get a regeneration rune. Man, it doesn't get any better than that for the Ogre Magi. He is going to find himself with a full set of HP. His down and bottom Legion Commander is farming decently well up against the PA. They're going to get a wraparound. He does have his spells to use, but a Moment of Courage proc from Goric is going to mean that he's trading more effectively. But now with the Stifling Dagger, Blink Strike coming in from Tib, they're going to start focusing him down. They do have an Ignite, but don't spend it, and Goric going to make it back safely towards his tower, despite dropping fairly low. Still, with the dual lane setup, it's unfortunate, but CCK are unlikely to make very many rotations. Got him taking a little bit too much damage, and then with an Elder Titan on the enemy side of the board, you're also not going to see very many rotations from the enemy side. So we're in for a fairly passive early game, and I'm not exactly sure what the trigger is going to be to change that. If nothing else, Blink Dagger on the Tidehunter is probably one of your bigger openings, but First Blood's probably just going to happen when somebody makes an overstep, or if there's a lucky rune for one of these mid-heroes. A Wex Invoker and a Zeus definitely can make good usage of things like a Haste rune. The Ancients are going to be blocked by the Elder Titan, committing 1 Sentry Ward towards it, but it is already a triple stack, if I'm not mistaken. So Tidehunter is still going to have a decent amount of income coming out from that, and still getting some good experience in lane. Level 3 at this point in the game is pretty solid, especially when you look at an Elder Titan that hasn't seen experience hardly at all. Dread gets some experience from these Skeleton Warriors, but that's all he's had from this entire game, with the exception of 1 creep that he shared with the tri-lane. But yeah, Elder Titan, he'd love to have access to this pole, but just isn't able to find it. Does get the D-ward off, so now he is going to be able to get this pull through, and that'll be much needed experience for Dread. Still, the enemy supports aren't doing too much better. Ogre Magi level 2, Lich level 2 as well. And I think Elder Titan has plenty of time to catch up. Honestly, levels or not, Elder Titan at this stage is fairly useless. Stifling Dagger into Goric. He is going to purge that out with the press of the attack and also heal some in the process. Yeah. This Leech Commander getting a little bit more experience than the Tidehunter, but only marginally so. Our mid lane matchup is going the way of the Invoker, kind of as expected. I mean, Zeus is not one to dominate lanes, especially when it comes to denies. He's denying a lot more than I thought he would. With 4 denies after an inch, is actually playing this very well for Zeus. That auto tech animation is abysmal, and the damage isn't too great either. And now with those phase boots completed, Invoker is going to have a decent amount of damage under his belt as well, and it's still not going poorly for them. But now the hasted Ogre coming in with the Fire Blast, Cold Snap as well as that EMP. Villics dropping low. Will he die first? No, with the EMP Tornado drop, it's going to be First Blood going the way of K3K as Zeus kills off the Ogre to 1 more tower shot. Tidehunter up top dropping very low, but will be able to make his way back out to safety. Currently it's the Skywrath Mage also taking some tower shots, as does Artis. But it is going to be a traded kill in mids. He's getting a little bit of gold out of that, but still the first one to drop, unfortunately enough for him. Had he gotten that First Blood, could have been huge. But now Invoker is going to secure himself an even better time in this lane. Now sending out to himself the completed Magic Wand, I believe, that is for himself, which is quite crucial in this lane, to be honest. Usually you don't see people upgrading those into Magic Wands, or very rarely, but up against the Zeus, it's definitely worthwhile. Zeus cancel casts his ultimate just so he can hear that very wonderful clap coming out from it in the middle lane. Not much else to talk about there. Elder Titan has managed to still sit on level 1 for the entirety of this game. I'm quite honestly surprised. I thought Dread would be able to find more, but what he's lacking, the Skywrath Mage is getting an experience, but Dread, this impact just isn't going to be there for him. CCK are a team with phase boots, and at this point in the game, it's quite possibly the scariest Oh my goodness, I just missed a kill. On our Zeus rotation again, coming up from Villic. This time, no haste rune necessary. Looks like it was just the Ignite rundown, and that Cold Snap EMP Tornado combination does a very large amount of damage at this point in the game, especially for Zeus. It looks like he was way too aggressively positioned. He died somewhere around here. I wasn't expecting him to be that close. With Zeus, generally sit very far back and get that chain lightning and get CS. Currently, creeps being pulled up by Dread on our tower to secure Artist a little bit of extra gold for himself. Yeah, Legion Commander rotates in. Legion doesn't have her level 6 yet, just sitting on a solid level 5, and is making her way towards the jungle. This is one of the downsides of having a Lich in your lane, but Tidehunter surprisingly isn't getting very much at all either. I thought that Flawix would have been able to get more than the Legion, but apparently 'tis not so. Both of these supports have done a decent job, and now Artist with the Aquila can zone him out pretty decently as well, even with 2 points up in the Kraken shell. Stealth Shield on the Tidehunter is not the most common of pickups, but it's decent. Down in bottom, we're going to see Stifling Dagger as well as Jump on the Goddamn. Despite getting some damage into Phantom Assassin before falling, he's just getting too comfortable in this lane. Now Other Titan stomping up some creeps. He's also dropping low, but not low enough. It's in mid where we see the Jump on Afro Ninja with the Cold Snap. It's going to be a killing spree going the way of K3K, and it is an Orchid build coming out from this Invoker. Man, Zeus, a very squishy hero, and if you do get caught out by any CC abilities, you're just up the river without a paddle. You can't do anything. Zeus slow, and now Elder Titan. Ooh, that's a dangerously low position to be in. Currently dropping to that poison damage, trying to live. I don't think that's lethal, even if it does take him down. Maybe it is. Surviving with 1 HP, man. Dread, you're scaring me, bud. Level 2, finally on the Other Titan. Still no points up in that aura. Eventually, they're going to have that available, but any analysis in the draft about having that extra damage coming out from Natural Order is pretty much off of the table, and this Invoker is just having the time of his life, and PA is also doing well. This is pretty much a swap of what we saw last game. CCK just making all these lanes work out for them. Down in bottom, goddamn again! My goodness, critted down by Tib! And now Gora can't do anything but watch his Skyreth Mage drop. Hellraisers, they just, I don't know, seem to not find their foothold in this game. Maybe getting a little too comfortable after the stomp that was game 1. It looks like CCK are well on their way towards finding a nice mid-game transition in stride. Gorik from the high ground, Fire Blast, Frost Blast, now the jump down to the low from Tib. He purchased off those slows. They need a little bit more disabled in order to chase him down, or maybe they just YOLO the dive. One more Stifling Dagger, he's slowed, but they can't go for any more as Phantom Assassin's forced back by TP in from the Zeus. Zeus only gets 1 Chain Lightning, and that's TP forced out for hardly any commitment coming out from these heroes, except for their mana pools. Salve is forced out by the Lich, I suppose, but still, this Zeus isn't finding anything. Down in bottom now, he does have his level 6, but we haven't seen him actually use it to get those kills, and right now, this is when Afro Ninja wants to be finding them. As a Zeus, this is pretty much prime time when you have that level advantage over the supports where you can burst them down, but there's just not an opening. No other items on top of his boots and bottle. It's a complete lane swap coming out from Gorik and Zeus, and honestly, Gorik has a better chance of surviving up against this Invoker. The mana drain doesn't do as much damage since he doesn't have as much mana to work with, and he can always, like, purge out the Cold Snap. I think, as long as he's not getting actively hit and there's no other lockdown involved up top. Gundam fighting up against Flawix. It's not a fight you can win, Skyreth Mage, but he is going to drop Concussive Shot and finish off his mana pool a little bit in order to drop Flawix down to about half. It's time well spent by Skyreth Mage as long as he doesn't die. If Tidehunter was level 6, that would have been a fairly easy turnaround kill, but just making sure the Tidehunter isn't. So continuously zoned out. Flawix is not having a great time, but the other 2 lanes are, so CCK are just finding quite a bit out of this game. That said, you can't ever count out a team with a Medusa. The late game potential coming out for this hero is pretty absurd. Hellraisers, they need to start putting together their combo with the duels into the Zeus ultimate with that damage coming through. They need to get some stacks of damage up onto this LC and find Gorik a place in this game, because currently the offline Legion Commander is at about the same net worth as the Zeus and pretty much the same items as well, minus that upgraded magic wand. Gorik's going to find a little bit of jungle farm as well, triple stacked up. Maybe even quad stacked up by his supports. Although he has some mud golems there, doesn't really matter. Up on top, it's the Elder Titan to fall. First use of Ravage is not even there. It's still 1 experience off. There we go. Creep kind of dying. Now they have Ravage, and they might even consider going back in. But yeah, Elder Titan, only a level 3 hero up against a level 5 Ogre and a level 5 Lich. The nuking power coming out from these two is just too much for him to handle. Villic is going to go for the more stable damage build in the Ignite instead of relying on this multicast more. I'm not a huge fan of this choice. I think just going into Fire Blast YOLO, get that extra big multicast to completely decimate the enemy's supports. But Tib doesn't really need any help down in bottom, even if there are people in this lane, and for now, There's not. Everybody's gone doing other things, and there's just nothing that they can do about it. Phantom Assassin is going to be getting whatever item she wants, and for now, it looks like it's going to be a Battle Fury, and it's going to be coming out at a good time, especially after the upgraded boots Basilius. Has enough for one of the blades, should she want to pick it up, or the Perseverance, whatever. But yeah, it's looking good for CCK. Invoker is almost at his Orchid, and it's going to be coming out probably at about 13 minutes in, maybe even faster, 12 if he can keep up this farm and if he gets another kill. But even so, an Invoker with Orchid this early on is going to be incredibly scary for Hellraisers. You run around with that Ghost Walk, running around at pretty much max, if not max movement speed. Ravage up top catches out Artist. He has the Mana Shield on, so he's not taking as much damage, but now with the Invoker rotating in, he's out of mana, and that's it for Artist. He can't survive, but a nice stomp. It's delaying things, but the creeps, they're proccing the Cold Snap and Ignite. It's going to be the kill going the way of the Ogre Magi, and now they chase for more. This is the power of that Invoker's combination, just doing too much damage. They find Dread in the sidelines. No way to cancel the TP except for a Lich ultimate, which is spent. Dread gets a lot of damage trying to chop down Lich, but can't do it before Tidehunter ends him with an Anchor Smash. CCK, where was this in the previous game? This is a complete turnaround in Hellraisers. It seems that they're very reliant on winning these early lanes. I don't know. Right now, the plan for them is to turtle up and find those single pickoffs, and they have a clearer way to do it. Tornado thrown up by the Invoker. Lands onto the Legion, denies the rune. No, it's going to be in the bottle of Legion Commander, but she might pay for her insolence. Purchase out that Cold Snap, and that's going to keep her alive. But if there was a Tidehunter with a Gush, maybe that would have been a kill, but you know.
Guess what's happening to Dyer's bottom.
Some plays coming out from K3K. They don't actually work there, but it's a nice attempt, I suppose. Just a little too late. But yeah, there's your Orchid coming out. 12.5 minutes for it, and now he's just going to be a wandering threat. Kind of like a Clinks, to be honest. At this point in the game, he's just about as scary. With that Ghost Walk invoked, you run around, and the extra movement speed, it's pretty significant, and he's going to pop in now. 455, he's still 1 point away from maxed out Wex, but the damage his combination is going to do, especially to the likes of Goddamn, is pretty ridiculous, but he's going to set his sights on a bigger fish to fry. It's Medusa up top, and he could probably get this solo, but he has an Ogre close too. This is really scary. It's going to be the Lich, currently getting the kill in the Outer Titan down in bottom. Invoker hasn't found any supports yet, and he actually can't find the Medusa. She's behind her creeps. Invoker's missing, and Medusa knows it. It looks like Artist is smelling something up, but if he goes for the CS, he could be in a lot of trouble and not even know. No sentries in the ground, and now Silence, multicast. There's the EMP to drain the mana before any other spells are spent. He has the Tornado to secure off this kill, and without mana, it doesn't even matter. The right click from Ogre Magi to jam it in. Hellraisers just can't find anything, and I expect this to happen every time that Invoker has the mana to do so, and EMP is able to sustain this aggression. If he finds the Skyrath Mage, which he very well might run into, my goodness, Sky, you're screwed. He knows the Ghost Walk is there, silence up the Orchid, Fire Blast multicast, and he's gone. My goodness, so much damage coming out from this combination, and this Wex Invoker is just working wonders. Ultimate from Zeus doesn't kill off Flowex. My goodness, sorry about that, bud. He is down to 7 HP, the Thunderbolt misses, and Tide is out free. Afroninge might not be so. He's trying to TP out the Cold Snap. It's too fast. K3K, a beast on his finger, is going to be able to invoke that in a flash, and there goes the Zeus. 12-1, CCK, huge advantage for them, upwards of 7,000 in both the gold and the experience. And I think they just needed to find their mojo, and, well, they did in game number 2. It's looking like we're heading towards a 1-1. At this time, they were calling GG to Hellraisers, and now, although Hellraisers aren't in as bad a position as we saw CCK being in game number 1, they just can't accomplish anything. They're waiting for a Blink Dagger on this Legion, which is still years away. There's 900 gold pooled. It's about halfway there. Probably expected to be in 18 minutes if she's farming the jungle without being stopped, but with K3K jumping around with that Ghost Walk, they need to be so careful. Yeah, Invoker's not roaming for kills now, but he can be so comfortable in this map. He's currently the scariest here that they have to deal with, and eventually, Tib is going to be picking up a lot of items. He's going to get that Battle Fury, probably about 15 minutes, 16 minutes, thereabouts, and once he has that Battle Fury, his farming speed and his damage is going to be through the roof. Tidehunter also going to be farming up some Ancients of his own. He'll have a Blink Dagger. Now he's smoked up. Invoker looking for blood, and I think they know exactly where the Medusa is. In fact, I know they know exactly where this Medusa is since he's spotted out by the Observer. Oh, Artist. Silenced up by the Orchid. Frostblast, EMP. Can he get away fast enough? No, he can't. The Cold Snap is going to drain all his mana. However, a nice stomp. No, the Lich Ultimate going to bounce through. Drains his mana. Doesn't bounce to Dread, and now trying to chase him through. They can't do it. Nice defensive play from the Elder Titan, and now Zeus dropping the Ultimate. He's going to be able to get the kill on the Lich. This is a very high priority kill if he can get it, but I don't think K3K is going to fall. Though he's dropping low, regeneration picked up by the Zeus as well. In the meantime, Skyrath Mage going to die to Villic. solo, ignite, fire blast, multicast, and that's the end of Skywrath Mage's life. Those multicasts can be so brutal, especially if your name is Skywrath Mage. Very little HP there. 1-for-1 support trade across the map, favoring Hellraisers because they're behind. But still, the problem remains that for this mid-game, CCK are going to be incredibly scary. Hellraisers, they need more levels on this Elder Titan. He has 3 up and 2 his Spirit, but you want that Astral, that Natural Order maxed out for Dread. And without that, their damage just isn't as significant. And I mean, it worked wonders for them in that last fight. He's able to punch out a lot as long as he's not controlled, but I expect that Hellraisers, they need to take this game to 30 minutes plus in order to be able to win some fights. Up in top, we might see our first duel, but no, it's Gorik getting gone on by Villic, as well as the Invoker. K3K, he needs to stop. That's a mega kill streak. Killing off the Leech Commander is fairly easy, and we still haven't seen dual cast. And honestly, that's not Leech Commander's fault. He just can't find an opening. If he cast it, he'd probably just be feeding away damage, and that's not something that you can afford to do when you're ahead, and not when you're behind either. Definitely not when you're behind. Ogre Magi going to pick up presumably Arcane Boots and then working towards his Aghanim Scepter, but maybe he just decides to rush straight towards the Ags. Picks up a Soul Ring. It's a decent measure to make sure you always have that mana, and eventually you'll build into a Bloodstone, but I think Villic's next big item of choice is either going to be Ags or Force Staff, whether he wants to prioritize the mobility or not. Artist finds himself in a position where the safest place for him to farm is in the enemy woods, and I think it's a valid choice. There's no wards in the enemy jungle. They weren't expecting this, so Artis is going to make sure that he finds something out of this map, and it's working for him for now. Force Staff now on K3K. He's going to have an initiation ranger that's longer than most of his heroes, but not as long as Tidehunter with his Blink Dagger. Ravage still hasn't been used to great effect. There was one Ravage that secures a couple of kills, but outside of that, Flux hasn't been the most active around the map. K3K is still hunting through the jungle, and my goodness, Leech Commander, this would be a terrible time to die, saving up for that Blink Dagger, and I think he's gone. Gorik, once he's silenced up, no heals for you, going to be bottling up, and now K3K slows him down, EMP on the ground. Will he be able to avoid the EMP? No, he won't. Mana drained, and now he's completely gone. That's Cold Snap, one more auto attack, Orchid Tick for nothing else but to secure the kill. Invoker going to secure it down in bottom. There is the silence onto Tib, and with the Zeus ultimate, it's enough damage. Now they chase down the Lich. The Skywrath Mage Mystic Flare is going to be enough, and now Villic dropping pretty low as well. Stone Gaze, he's turned into a stone, even though he's not facing remotely close to Medusa, apparently. After an inch is going to be dropped. There's a Ravage catching out for Medusa, dies on the spot. Now they clean up everybody. It's a 4-for-2 trade, despite losing your Phantom Assassin. Now they want more. Blink on the Tidehunter isn't going to be spent yet, and doesn't have a Gush available. So for now, everybody's going to escape, but my goodness, you can't fight into that Ravage. Even though it's a 2-for-4, it's still not the worst trade for Hellraisers since they are behind. But now they're going to start losing towers, and it's a tier 1 tower in mid. The second fall after the tier 1 tower up in top that was taken previously by the Invoker and company. Yeah, I have no idea. CCK are playing very well, and Hellraisers, they go for a very damage-heavy, control-light idea as far as the draft is concerned, and then they aren't able to get those lane wins, and without those lane wins, it's really hard to transition into that sort of, I don't know, draft. And now the Medusa just doesn't have any room on the map to farm. She has Yasha, Power Treads, Aquila, some nice stat items for herself, but that's just not enough to carry yourself into this portion of the game. Last tier 1 tower standing on the Dire is going to fall as Invoker kills up the Elder Titan next to his tier 2 tower. Just nothing he can do. Hasted up effectively, especially with Bloodlust, not to mention that. And now they find themselves an Artist. They're going to drop from Gust Shot Silence onto Suki. He's going to walk into the Skywrath Mage Mystic Flare. An Arcane Bolt. The Silence is going to amp it, so he's going to survive. And now the Tornado came from the Invoker. Lands on Artist. The Zeus ultimate is going to snap the Lich in half. But right now, Hellraisers still can't fight very effectively. They are down one hero. TP up towards top from the Tidehunter. Going to put an end to Gorik's push. Now TPN from the Invoker. Oh no, he's gone. He's going to be silenced up, cold snapped, and now Gorik can do nothing but watch himself fall. He's surviving a lot longer than he thought he would, but he's so close to the Blink Dagger, and now losing that 300 gold or so is so important for him. It's a godlike streak for K3K, and he's running this map at this point. Yeah, it is actually almost exactly 300 gold that was lost. Zeus getting a little bit of D-ward on, and this Zeus, although he has an old talisman, one can always hope for a Dagon. This is probably going to be a Force Staff, and it's a necessary item as well. Affinage, he just hasn't been able to find a way to get that damage off in the fights. If he gets off his ultimate and a couple of spells, he does quite a bit, but if he drops to the Invoker, that's all over for him. There's just nothing that can happen other than that. Right now, CCK, they're grouping up. They now have the workings of a BKB on the Phantom Assassin. Once that item comes out, Phantom Assassin really has nothing to fear. I talked about an MKB on the Medusa eventually, but Medusa is miles away from getting that item, and even if she does, she'll be wet paper to the likes of the Invoker, and she'll need like 3 items like Mantis Style, Scotty, as well as that Monkey King bar to actually be a threat. Tib is going to be the scariest physical damage dealer on this map. Almost bar none, Leech Commander still has yet to get a single stack of damage at 20 minutes into the game, which is definitely not where you want to be. Frostblast not thrown out. There's a nice splitter coming out from the Elder Titan, going to make sure that everybody splits away from that. Not going to be a snapback on anybody, but Silence, Zeus Ultimate, Mystic Flare onto the Ogre Magi. The Lich is also going to fall in the sky. 2 heroes turned to stone, but they can still fight. They have a Ravage and an Invoker inbound. Blink in, Ravage. It's going to catch out 3. Oh no, 4 as Afro Ninjas is also dropped. There is going to be Thunderbolts galore, however, the damage is too much. In the meantime, Leech Commander is being cleaned up. Invoker drops the Tornado onto the Zeus. Zeus dropped down to the ground. Eul Scepter onto the Phantom Assassin. Afro Ninja silenced up, can't do anything. Tib is still surviving, but not for long. Need that BKB. Now Goddamn going to be focused. It's a triple kill for K3K. TP attempt coming out from Artist. Can he make it? There is a Cold Snap available, and now it's going to be an Ultra kill for K3K. 13-0-7. Completed Assault Cuirass, or almost completed Assault Cuirass. K3K is a happy camper, and my goodness, that looked like it could have gone disastrously for CCK, and to be fair, it didn't go awful for Hellraisers. They don't lose that much gold, but the gold in the pockets of the Invoker is just too scary. They can't deal with him. They have no way to control him up. They need Black King bars of their own. They need just more, and they're not able to find it. Compare the net worth of the Invoker to anybody on the enemy side, and he's doubling them up more or less. A little bit less than double on the Medusa, but still, when you're talking about doubling up the highest farmer on the enemy side, that's ridiculous. And now, Ghost walked up. He has plenty of mana to get off his combination. If he finds anybody in the jungle, they're dead. There's nothing he can do about it. There's not enough sentry coverage on the map. In fact, there's no sentry coverage on Hellraisers. They have a couple on Dread, but those aren't on the ground, and if they're not on the ground, they don't help you. Mantis Style picked up by Medusa is going to be far from saving your life. And now, he might be fighting off a little bit more than he can chew. Let's see how fast he can pick off Gorik. The supports are rotating down towards the Elder Titan to help out with some dewarding action. They are going to throw an Ignite towards Dread, and the Ogre is fighting over his wards, but now Gorik is dead. Not a chance in the world. He's going to be able to make his way out, actually. Huh. I was expecting him to fall. They just decided against diving under that tier 2 tower. There was backup, so it would have been risky. Now K3K spots out Dread as well as the Skywrath Mage. Slows down Dread. They know he's here. Drops a sentry as well as a ward on the ground. They know he's here. K3K should know that he's spotted as well. Anchor Smash to farm a little bit more, but there's not an opening. Even if they can see this Invoker, how are they going to kill him? He's running at almost max movement speed. 498 with Ghost Walk enabled, and oh, Leech Commander. She's close to being dropped, but it's still CCK with almost complete control, if not complete control of the map, and whenever they have Ravage, they can take fights and almost assuredly win them. Ghostwalk shown in mid, potentially going to be a tip-off towards Hellraisers that they're in the area. Elder Titan, oh, they're going to go into Villic, but this is trouble. They blow him up too fast. K3K, he's dropping. Duel onto the Invoker, that's going to be the Godlike streak gone. Gorik is going to fall to Tib. He's man fighting for all he's worth. Eul Scepter going to be spent on him. The Lich is joining the fray now to jump down to the low ground. They find themselves to kill onto the Zeus. Skywrath Mage trying to kill off Suki. One more Arcane Bolt will do him in. Now Goddamn chase through the trees. Auto attack 1. They are going to drop a Mystic Snake into Flowax. He's trying to kill off the Skywrath Mage as best he can, but the Skywrath is just too darn fast. Kraken Shell purges off the slow from the concussive shot. Now the Arcane Bolts are going to fly to Flowax. They're still trying to kill off this Tidehunter. Although he won't disjoint those Arcane Bolts, he might survive. Actually, no. I think either's straight to the damage. Oh, dear. There you go. Flowax, he needs any healing he can get. Can't find it. That's going to be the end of his life, and goddamn, secures himself another kill. It's going to be a bloodbath. 3 for 4 trade that's heavily favoring Hellraisers, especially since Leech Commander gets her first stack of damage, and by killing off the Invoker nonetheless. She doesn't gain that much gold, however, losing -2 since she did die after getting that spree, so I mean, it's not all great, but it still works out. And right now, it's Hellraisers holding on. Although, still, CCK are in a good position. This is dangerous. They have about 10 or 15 minutes to take the remainder of the tier 2s and put some pressure on the high ground. If they're not able to do that, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. Manta Dodge attempted and succeeded on the Frost Blast coming out from Artis, and so he's going to be safe. Tornado going to be thrown a long distance, but doesn't land into anybody. But since Invoker was coming from the well, that extra residual fountain regen is going to keep him back up in fighting shape, fairly healthy. Still checking out whether or not we are online, just making sure there's no technical issues while we have a little bit of a downtime, but still CCK They can't get complacent, even though they had a really good early game, and Invoker that was doing insanely well. They can't count on that. Now Suki blown up. This is the magic damage combo of Hellraisers I was talking about in the draft. Tornado going to land onto Gorak. Now with the silence, Tidehunter Ravage committed onto Afterninge as well as Gorak. They'll be able to finish him off with the Anchor Smash, but Afterninge, he's doing too much damage. Flawix eats the Arcane Bolt. They just need a Thunderbolt on top of this. Afterninge chasing him down, Tidehunter to fall, and now they're chasing down the sidelines. Villic eating an Arcane Bolt, not looking too healthy. Should be able to make it out of here, although if the Astral Spirit bumps into him, he'll be in a lot of trouble. He is still sticking around. Ogre might have shown himself to the creeps, flirting with that, Fog of War tip, going to clean up the other Titan with a couple cleaves of that beautiful blade, and now looking for Artist. There's a regeneration who pops the Stony Gaze, and now he's going to be able to secure himself an extra life, or effectively an extra life. Let's see how long this is going to last. It's going to last indefinitely. Now being pursued. Invoker throwing the Tornado. Tornado is not going to clip on Artist. Artist is going to be safe, at least for now. There's an EMP on the ground. Doesn't do anything. No, that was an Urn Charge. Excuse me. Silence. Going away of K3K, but K3K doesn't carry. He's going to right-click E to death. With that, Bloodlust doing quite a bit of damage. Don't jump in from Tib. Trying to focus down Afroninge. Going to be disjointing that Ignite with the Eul's Scepter. Blink away from Afroninge. Going to keep himself safe. But now Artist in a bit of a pickle. Man fighting up against a couple of heroes, but with the duel and support coming up from Liege Commander. Villic's the one to fall. Splitshot also doing a decent amount to the Phantom Assassin. And for now, Hellraisers find themselves with a pretty convincing win. Stifling Dagger to slow down the Medusa. Blink away from the Phantom Assassin towards some friendly allies is going to mean that CCK are safe and home free. But this Medusa, she's catching up. Despite being 1-4-4, she's now at 10,000 net worth. And Invoker hasn't really gained anything for the last 7 minutes. Still sitting on that 4-staff Orchid as well as the Salt Cuirass. And although these are really nice items, they're not necessarily going to fall off, but the impact that they're going to have is. They're not going to be as impactful as Medusa that right-clicks down your entire enemy team. Although the Assault Cuirass aura is nice, and that extra attack speed is good, Invoker isn't the scariest of right-clicking heroes, although he's decent. Right now, CCK, still in it. The state of the game really hasn't changed much, but right now the bleeding is stemmed, and since Hellraisers are coming even in the trades, or maybe even winning a couple of them, the lead has been pared down to 5,000 gold towards CCK. They need to start doing something. Even though they're taking fights with the Ravages, these towers, they're not taking any pressure. And with the heroes that they've chosen, they just don't have very good pushing power. Invoker generally known as a fairly good pusher, but only when you go for that double Forge Spirit Necronomicon build. Outside of that, it's pretty much it. Yeah, we are going to see a push coming down bottom from CCK. Ravage online, they have all their ultimates available, and some Ice Armor to boot. Leech Commander is going to start counter-pushing this with some overwhelming odds. Jumping from Gorak, they're dueling up Tip. The damage from Zeus is going to be enough. It's going to be a winner towards the Leech Commander. Phantom Assassin's the one to die first. At the end of the day, that's pretty much what matters. Earthsplit are going to be pretty good onto several heroes. Jump forward, they're trying to get as much damage as possible. Multicast down onto the Elder Titan. And Gorak is going to be on the receiving end of quite a bit of hate. Maybe not Gorak, my goodness, sorry about that. We are going to see Villic going for a Fire Blast onto poor Afroninge. I completely missed that off the camera, and now they're going to Bloodlust K3K as he goes towards top, pursuing the Medusa, but that's a man fight you really can't take. Medusa is completely full on health and mana, and you aren't. So it is going to be the Invoker, forced to back out of that fight and engagement. A 2-for-3 trade after all is said and done. That Hellraisers, again, aren't going to be too sad about, mostly because they get extra damage on the Legion Commander. And after the longest time, 20 minutes in, no damage on the Legion, now 56 stacks. Or not 56 stacks, that would be redonkulous, but 56 bonus damage to work with. This Legion Commander is picking up quite a bit of steam and is going to start being threatening inside the team fights. Even with that evasion on the Phantom Assassin, the magic damage is still pretty crazy. CCK, I think they're itemizing a little bit peculiarly. They're not working towards the pipe on any of their heroes, and it's nice. It's getting Ags, BKB, or whatever that Ogre Club is, for the Lich, or a 4-staff on your Tidehunter. The pipe is just mandatory. Goddamn, going to get himself a mega kill streak by killing off that poor Ogre. Unfortunately for them, no duel is won in the process, but it's still a pickoff for Hellraisers, and CCK leaking heroes slowly losing grip on this game. And right now, I'd say that the momentum is almost in the favor of Hellraisers. I mean, if you look at the downward slope, they've been consistently winning fights and taking those engagements, and it's definitely not over till it's over. CCK, they need to be so careful. They need to pick their engagements closely and make sure those supports don't get caught off solo, and their Invoker and Phantom Assassin don't get caught off solo as well. Right now, Artis is about to finish up a Scotty, and now Medusa's actually going to be incredibly scary. He's not completely online. Once he has the Scotty plus a Monkey King bar, that's going to be when he really starts hitting hard. But for now, the Zeus, despite usually falling off at this point in the game, there's only one BKB on the enemy side, and that's on the Phantom Assassin. And Phantom Assassin, if she gets dueled, can't use that BKB, and they've been able to duel her fairly effectively and kill her off before the fight begins. They need some way to mitigate this damage, whether that's casual cloaks on everybody or a pipe for one. Heck, even casual cloaks and a pipe. They just have so much damage coming up for Hellraisers that needs to be stopped. And even with those items, the magic amp coming out from the Astral Spirit Natural Order, as well as the Ancient Seal, it's just a little bit too much for them to handle. And CCK, it seems that they just don't know how to clean out a game. They're going to push down bottom. And this is a good move from them. They should be able to take this Tier 2 tower without much of a fight. The Glyph's going to delay this. Stomp goes out from the Elder Titan. Doesn't land on anything. And Tip should be able to take this with some help with the Invoker Tornado thrown out as a precautionary measure. Drops the creep wave down. And it will be a clean escape. CCK, they find something. And that's going to be extra gold. It's towards the next round of items. And for Invoker, it seems to be a Scythe. I'm not entirely on board with this item choice coming out from K3K. I think Black King Bar is a necessity, despite having tools that go through it, like the physical damage from Medusa, Stone Gaze, Duel, stuff like that. They rely very heavily on that to win fights, but now with the double life, as well on your Phantom Assassin, they're going to be in a much better situation. Suki, he's stomped, and going to be sleeping awkwardly inside the Roshan pit. But still, quickly, CCK take two objectives as Hellraisers just aren't in position to defend, and this is what they've needed to be doing for quite some time. Still anybody's game. It's a lot easier, or a lot closer than what I thought for what could have happened, or after that early game. When you have a 14-0 Invoker, that's, I don't know, just ridiculous. You other teammates have to really be dying very heavily in order to drop that. But Tib, he eats a Mystic Snake and an Astral Spirit and is dropped down to like half. A couple of spells from the Zeus as well, but that's impressive. He still has the Aegis and they get another Tier 2 tower. It's still cleanup for CCK. But even though these Tier 2 towers are fairly easy for them, the real task lies ahead of them in getting the high ground pushed down. And really to do that, they need to kill off a lot of these players from Hellraisers. If they get caught out by a huge Earth Splitter or a Stomp like we've seen, it could be disastrous. Elder Titan, although starting off very slowly, is currently looking grand as far as levels are concerned. Maxed out Aura is really all you need for Elder Titan. Maxed out Aura in Spirit, even better. An extra point to the Stomp. It doesn't get really any better than this for Elder Titan. The Stomp scales a little bit, the slow on his ultimate a little bit as well, but as long as you stay alive, that's the more important part. He's been keeping good positioning, making sure that Astral gives the aura to the enemy team, and that he's on the back lines in a safe enough position to where he doesn't die. So well played to Hellraisers and their supports. They're sticking into this game for now. Buybacks galore on the Radiant side, only the Skarath Mage on the Dire. Last Tier 2 tower standing is going to be taken by Hellraisers, or on the side of Hellraisers by CCK, and Hellraisers look to make a trade down the Tier 1 tower bottom, but they need to defend this. This is a move that could lose them the game. They are going to start TPing back. They have Legion Zeus in position, but Skarath Medusa are still down bottom. Baguette with his Aegis, this is the most comfortable time he could be in, but he needs a Spirit down a quarter of his health, and now some nukes from Zeus might do him in. Losing his first life if he's not too careful. Blinks away to allies, will be fine. For now, CCK, I'm not sure that they can push high ground now, and if they can't push it with Aegis, what's going to be the item that actually changes that, I wonder? Satanic on the Phantom Assassin might be mandatory, just that extra tank ability. But honestly, I think Pipe, they need some way to keep themselves and the creep wave alive, and I hope that that's Tidehunter's next item with that Ring of Health. Although Refresher in a normal game is where you want your Tidehunter to be, Double Ravage is awesome, but that extra 400 damage block is pretty crucial. That's, I don't know, just so important for them. And they honestly need to have it now, because come about 5 minutes from now, Medusa, she's going to have her Monkey King bar, and once we have that physical damage online for Hellraisers, even if the EMP lands, Medusa still has plenty of mana to work with on top of it. She has a Scotty and an Invoker. Trying for a solo kill, I don't think he can do this. He doesn't have backup inbound. The mana drain is going to be really annoying for Medusa, and she's going to be forced to TP out, but with the silence on the K3K, he can't get off the cold snap. No, Mystic Flare shared between him and the Lich, but the Zeus ulti, it's enough. With that Ancient Seal amplifying the damage, it's ridiculous, and now they're going to try to get off this Lich as well, but they can't do it. Ignite's going to be multicasted. It's now Tib going very hard on the Avalanche. One more crit going to do him in. My goodness, that poor Zeus didn't stand a chance. This is a bit of an opening for Hellraisers, or for CCK, despite losing their Invoker. But now, duel onto Flawworks. They're not going to have Ravage for this fight as well, or will they? No, the crits, they're going to be enough. It's going to be winner for Leech Commander, however, as the Tidehunter died first. Again, a very close call. But now TP away from Tib, going to keep himself safe. Probably the best course of action, as there was no way for them to cancel that. outside of a stomp from Elder Titan that was already used, and Medusa's Stone Gaze that wouldn't have acted in time. For now, CCK are repelled, and Hellraisers hang on, and they're able to get a couple of pickoffs, even though CCK might have found themselves an opening. It just wasn't big enough. That Tidehunter getting dueled is actually pretty crucial, even though Tidehunter and company do get the kill onto the Leech Commander. It's damage for the Leech Commander 1, and it's also fighting without Ravage. Invoker is crucial for their team fighting potential, but when Zeus is also taken off the table, they can fight as long as they have that big AoE lockdown spell, but they didn't have it, so they couldn't do it. Phantom Assassin, still pretty darn scary. BKB Satanic, from here on out, it's pretty much straight up damage, or at least it should be. Or at least pseudo damage. Butterfly wouldn't be bad, but then again, MKB should be the next item of choice for Medusa. Still hasn't bought anything, saving up for buyback, as well as holding her cards to make sure that Phantom Assassin is always guessing. But honestly, it should be a Bash or Abyssal Blade for Phantom Assassin. Anything else just isn't going to cut the cake, and even though it's still a lead for CCK, this lead hasn't grown any bigger for the greater portion of 20 minutes. It's AK lead in the gold and almost a completely zeroed out experience graph. Yeah, the counterparts on either side are pretty much tied neck and neck, even though at one point in this game, Invoker was sitting onto a godlike spree. He's only a couple levels ahead of the high-level heroes on the enemy side. Phantom Assassin loses her Aegis the natural way, as that's going to be reclaimed by Roshan, giving her a little bit of extra regen, but honestly, that's a window that CCK couldn't use to get Roshan, or to get high ground after picking up that Roshan. Second Roshan's going to be there. They still won't have cheese available for that. They just need anything else that they can find. Phantom Assassin is critting quite significantly, and eventually might be able to one-shot the Scarlet Mage. 2 armor hero, 1300 HP. It's not going to be pretty once that Abyssal Blade comes out. And also for the Zeus and company, still Hellraisers. They're not finding as big of an opening as they're finding a lot bigger opening than I thought that they would after CCK's start. CCK probably could have asked for a better early game, getting so many kills on the Invoker, or for the Invoker on his enemy in lane, as well as all of their lanes pretty much accomplishing something. They got lots of farm in the Phantom Assassin, but transitioning that into a tangible lead in late game is pretty hard, and it seems that their experience as a team, or lack thereof, is costing them quite a bit. We have a pause, not sure the reason. Hopefully it is going to be subsiding soon, but it is after ninja pausing, so that's going to be the case for now. Yeah, this is the Battle of Central Europe Season 3. Despite the ticket saying Season 2, at least on the in-game client, the ticket for Dota 2 hasn't been added yet. It's been promised it'll be added in the next update by Valve, but we still don't know when that's going to happen. So hopefully that's going to be pretty darn soon, at least for the tournament organizers. It should also be coming with a Meepo set. I believe it has been all accepted into the game and all of that jazz, so it looks pretty good. I don't know. I might consider getting a pipe for my Meepo. Always nice to have that little swaggerific pipe. Currently, we're going to see a smoke being used by the Phantom Assassin and co. But I don't see anybody close enough to really be jumped. Right now, Hellraisers are going to say G, and Suki is also going to respond. Everybody's good to go into this game, and right now it is pretty close, either side. All things considered, it's been a pretty nice advantage towards CCK, but now Hellraisers, I think their fighting potential is starting to rival that of the enemy team. Leech Commander, despite not being reflected in her net worth, has 74 damage stolen.
Radiant's top tower is taking hits,
which is very significant. That's, I don't know, pretty much getting yourself a free relic and then some. Medusa shows her face. Ravage committed solo into Artist. Can they do enough damage? EMP needs to land if they want this kill. Multicast isn't doing very much, but now with the mana pool drain, Artist needs to get out of there. 4 staffs, they need anything to keep this Medusa alive. Lich Ultimate's bouncing through as well. They are doing damage to the Leech Commander. Buybacks available for the Medusa as well as the other Titan, but Medusa doesn't want to spend it. They need to be careful right now, however. CCK, they are facing up into the Medusa that could potentially get back into this fight, and CCK, they're going to go back into the Roche Pit. I'm not sure about that move. I think going and forcing out the Medusa buyback would have been better, and I'm not sure if they just had enough in the tank. They already used a Ravage, and it wins them a fight for sure, but doesn't win them well enough. Right now, again, CCK just can't break the high ground. It's going to be an advantage towards them. Demon Edge already purchased up by the Medusa. They know the MKB is coming out, so Basher is the next logical choice for Phantom Assassin, and her crits should get close to killing off the Scarlet Mage in one blow. If not the crit, Stifling Dagger crit probably is going to do him in. And CCK instead are going to group up mid, just making sure that all of these lanes have pressure. They have another smoke available. No, that's an Invis rune on Villic. The smokes aren't there for either of the supports. Agnum Scepter already completed by the Ogre. They set their sights towards this LC, but LC is way down towards the south, and we'll be able to TP back towards base safely as the Blink Dagger if things really hit the fan. Let's see, on to those creeps. They have about the same armor as the Skywrath Mage, at least the melee ones do. Yeah, almost one shot. It's about 1330. If the high-low rolls are there, maybe she'll get the complete kill. Currently, Zeus is going to show his face in lane. Drops a bolt into Tib as well. That's just some casual wraths. That's like 2 spells being spent by the Zeus that are already back off of cooldown that do, give or take, about 600 damage onto the Phantom Assassin, maybe even a little bit more. No BKB popped. Imagine if that's in a fight. Imagine if that's Ancient Sealed and Astral Ordered up, or Natural Order up. That's pretty insane. Yeah, 1327. It's getting close for Skywrath Mage. When we're talking about one-shotting heroes, that's pretty ridiculous. Right now, still, it's anybody's game. We've hit a very passive moment right now. It's going to be Medusa versus the world, and she's still not very tanky. When she does get hit by that EMP, maybe BKB's in her future, unless she's able to Manta Dodge that, which would require some pretty godly timing, and I'm not even sure if that's possible. Right now, Roshan is going to be the next objective for CCK, and they have a double damage run on the Phantom Assassin. Pinged out by the Lich. Now they're going to go into that Roche. I would have loved to see them pass a bottle towards him, but I don't think anybody has it, so they could use that in the fight. But just look at this Roshan melt. Tornado up towards the high ground, catches out the Medusa, but that's going to be about it. Double life again on the Phantom Assassin. If this push works for CCK, I think they win the game, but if it doesn't, I think I'd say that Hellraisers do. That's just a cursory analysis. Not really anything too significant there, but I don't think anything's getting better for Phantom Assassin. You get an Abyssal Blade, sure, but really double life, even the remainder of a DD rune. They won't have that for the push proper, but still, it's pretty ridiculous. Right now, this is about as good as things will get. It's before the Monkey King comes out for the Medusa. She won't have that for the fight, especially if she wants buyback. Leech Commander now with the BKB in tow is going to have a little bit of a safer initiation up against CCK, but for now, Phantom Assassin able to sit up onto the high ground, chipping away at this tower, jumping straight for the Skywrath Mage. No crits for him, but the Zeus ultimate held for now as the BKB comes out, and the crits, it's just too much. Zeus drops, duel onto Tib, but he can't win this duel. The BKB's already there. Skywrath Mage Mystic Flare. It's going to be winner for the Phantom Assassin. 18 extra damage, she dies, but she has an Aegis coming back into this fight. Villic going to stun up. Poor Artist still has plenty of mana. The EMP hasn't been thrown out yet, but now Artist is taking too much damage to survive through this, and Artist is going to fall. Tib is back up and fighting with the Fury. Buyback available from the Medusa. Buyback spent by the Zeus. He's going to drop the gem onto the ground, but can't pick it up. No vision of that gem, and CCK, they're repelled again. This is scary though. That's your completed Abyssal Blade. That's 18 plus damage on the Phantom Assassin. High ground's defended by some miracle. CCK, I think they need to commit a little harder. I don't know. They need to find a way to sustain. They need a pipe. I've said it through the entire game. If they had a pipe or a mech or anything, they have an urn somewhere, I think. They don't even have an urn. Okay, yeah, the urn's on the Ogre. Never mind. Excuse me. So they have that, which is kind of nice, but I really doubt this refresher choice coming up from Tidehunter. It's really nice to have double Ravage, but I think replace that Force Staff with components for the pipe. You'd have it for that push, and then you can go forward. Or this Lich. I think him going for the pipe is even larger an issue, because Suki, he has an Ags, which is nice and all, but there's no way that that's actually going to accomplish much. Zeus is dropping incredibly low to the Invoker, force staffing forward, but a duel's there from K3K, Tornado to finish him off, as well as the Orchid. Bye-bye, Zeusy. Now we're going to see K3K drop by an overwhelming odds. That's about it, but Phantom Assassin has not had enough. Man, Sunstrike, going to miss. Just a little bit close, but oh, the vision. It's enough to kill the Skywrath Mage. That's a dual Gork. You can't do that. That's more damage fed towards the Phantom Assassin. That's 36. That's half of what the Phantom Assassin, or the Legion Commander herself has, and that's, you cannot afford to be doing that. There's no way. That duel was pretty much a panic duel. That's some 3-2 action if I ever did see it, and my goodness. That's so risky to do. I don't think there's really a chance that you can win that duel, even with Blade Mail. The PA has more health than you do, and even if she crits on Blade Mail, you're still fine. Now with the refresher onto Ravix, he's going to have a Ravage pretty darn soon. The double Ravage soon to fall. Artist completely tapped in mana. Artist down. He has buyback. But what does it matter? I think CCK have done it, bringing back the series 1-1. I don't think that's unfair to say. No buybacks except for the Medusa, even though they'll be back up in about 30 seconds. That's enough to get the second set of barracks, and even though Medusa is one of those heroes that can push up against them, she still has no Monkey King bar, and no damage on top of this. At this point, Divine Rapier seems to be the only choice for them, and although it got a little shaky here, that time was pretty questionable for CCK. After the fact, they're now going to make this Megas, or at least very close to it. The range barracks falling to the creeps in mid, and this is the last stand for Hellraisers. They're going to buy back in the Reducer. They want to fight, but Phantom Assassin doesn't care, as she's going to jump straight into the Elder Titan. Has another jump cooling down now. Medusa ultimate. It's going to force Tiv, forcing back. He's taking a live damage from the magic. He's stone gazed, however, he's not going to fall because he was turned to stone. That Medusa ultimate's going to give even more damage to the Phantom Assassin. Now eating into goddamn. Now Artist, he's going to eat the Ravage, and that's going to be pretty much all she wrote. Zeus respawning, gets an ultimate. Everybody's low. Kills off the Zeus, but Dread's going to call it. My goodness. That Phantom Assassin is incredibly scary. Satanic, she's back at the full, and goddamn. Oh, you're goddamn dead. Unless the Ancient explodes, it's going to do so. Well, CCK, they put up a good show. They seem to be a fairly volatile team, but if they get a good draft, they definitely show that they can take games off of some of the better teams in this game. It seems that Hellraisers just got a little too complacent, and they end up losing this game. They never were able to put that combo together. Thank you for watching. I've been Grandis V here on HeflaTV Hitbox 2. We have more Battle of Central Europe coming up shortly. So if you are interested in keeping track of these teams, I believe we're going to have some more Hellraisers, I believe, versus Virtus Pro Polar, if I'm not mistaken, which I definitely could be. But thanks for watching either way. Hope to see you soon. You can follow us on all of our social media, HeflaTV, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, all that jazz. And you can find the VODs uploaded to youtube.com/HeflaMoke about an hour after the broadcast is completed for the day. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you soon for some future Battle of Central Europe.